My name is Brofessor Panda, and this is my save file.
3, 2, 1. What's up, gamers, and welcome to the Save File podcast, where like every video game character, every gamer has an origin story to tell. I'm your host, Gold Lion, and as you can see, the overlay is a little messed up, so let me go ahead and fix this real quick for y'all. Technicalities, you know how it is. It's just what it is. This is the raw content, y'all. This is what y'all came here for. Yeah, this is what it is. Actually, you know what? We're gonna go ahead and skip the ad copy. I can video edit that in. We're all good. Whatever. I don't care.
We got this.
Yeah, because I'm gonna show y'all real quick. I'm gonna be real with y'all real quick. So Discord likes to update itself, and I'm supposed to be here, but he's there. So here we are now. So it is what it is. But what's up, Brofessor Panda? Actually, let me do a little intro on you, guys. Today's guest, if you guys don't know who it is, he is an amazing human being. He's been recommended by a few streamers on the show, and his name got brought up, and immediately when I went into his stream, you could tell by his soul and his spirit and just the energy that he puts out into this community. And when he streams, he's such a beautiful person, both inside and out. And I couldn't help myself but to ask him and reach out to him to come to the show. And he humbly accepted, and here we are. And guys, again, I cannot say how excited I am to have this man. I humbly introduce y'all to Brofessor Panda. What is up, Professor Panda?
How are you, my bamboo-filled friend? And thank you. You are way too kind.
Hey, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Honestly, I'm so happy for you to be here. You seem like you have an interesting journey, and I'm just ready to hear it, honestly. Because with someone that is as kind as you, there's a lot of things that would have to happen to an individual to understand the real, true meaning of kindness. And you, sir, you have that gift.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome, man. So real quick, tell us about your first experience with gaming.
Oh, holy bamboo. Well, so gaming, it's very interesting when we think about gaming as a concept, because really, gaming for me has been kind of tapestried into my entire life. Ever since I was a Panda Cub, I mean, gaming has just been a vital part of just really my day to day, from Super Nintendo to where we are now. It's something that has always been a very nice outlet, because regardless of what's going on, be it in the world, locally, or even nationally or even internationally, that was always a very good medium to act as a not necessarily an escape, but a good funnel to channel and help make some sense of what's going on. So gaming's just always been something that is very important to me. I didn't really realize that till probably the PlayStation era, but but since I was a little Panda Cub, it's just always been there. So
I like how you say Panda Cub. It's cute. It's adorable. I literally like every time you say Panda Cub, I could just like envision you as a little one, just being out there having the best time of your life. So you said PlayStation era. So what was like first experience with gaming? So what are some games that you started off with that you can recall?
So my very first experience, the first game I ever played, and it's so weird that it's always stuck with me, was Mega Man 7. Mega Man 7 was the first game I remember experiencing that it caught my attention as a distraction avenue, if you will. But
I like that distraction avenue.
Yeah, and I think the reason the PlayStation era is so pertinent for me is there was an RPG that came out called Legend of the Dragoon that has stuck with me as probably my favorite game of all time, because it was the first time that I saw what I thought was a truly emotionally driven story played out in a video game. Like, it wasn't a case of I was playing a game, I was experiencing emotion that I normally only really can infer from reading an actual novel. And I remember that stuck with me, that it's not just about, kind of playing and burning time, that there is an emotional attachment that can exist with some of these games that we experience. So, and I think that's even more so true today than ever.
Of course. Story writers nowadays are so great at just capturing emotion. It's amazing. I love it. What was the name again that had that great story that just got you?
Legend of the Dragoon.
So what was it about that storyline that really caught you?
it was very unique because it came out around the time when Final Fantasy VII that was top tier right then. I mean, a lot of people refer to the game as Final Fantasy 7.5 because it was very much in key with it. But I'd say the three things that I always look to when somebody says, why should I play this PlayStation 1 game that nobody will remake? Please remake it. If anybody hears this, please do. One is you get an actual raw experience of somebody that left home when they were young. They went off to attempt to complete a quest or a goal.
Mhm.
They come back home and everything that they knew when they left has been shattered. And so the story takes place of somebody that has come back as a young adult to the world that they knew is not there anymore, and they go through this journey of trying to, one, rectify everything that they grew up with, but also trying to learn from it. And through the journey, you learn of the main character and everybody that's involved. It gives you this experience of that while personal growth is important, the ability to succeed in the game is dependent on your ability to work with others. And I think it was a very good example of teaching early on the power of not just your personal growth, but how your personal growth can be 100% connected to growing others around you. And that stuck with me very, very, very hard, very early on. The second piece is it was one of the first games that I thought really tried to promote diversity. That it really focused on different cultures integrating with each other. It dealt with strife, with famine, with things that are real world struggles that really you didn't see in that day and age. And then three, probably the most important piece. It was one of my first experiences that while the story starts out as a traditional hero saving a princess, it turns into so much more. It turns into so much more than just what the staple was at the time. So if anything else, it also promotes equality. At least that's the way it felt to me at that time. Which is weird to say that a panda cub, that was what's important to them, but it's been with me since I was a youngin'. So
How old were you when you played the game?
oh man, it would have been in the teens. It would have been very, I'd say 13 to 15, not very old.
So you feel like some of those emotions that you experienced in the game, they kind of carried on in real life?
Very much so. It is definitely a medium that I always promote, that if I ever get to a point that I feel like I need something that is like if I ever feel just overly bamboozled, I need something that I can go back to that is a dependable, this is a place I know that can set me back on the right path. That is a game that I can play through and just feel like everything, the reset button's been hit.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing
That
that,
makes
man.
sense.
No, yeah,
course.
it makes perfect sense. Yeah, I love it. Like it's the way you're describing that game reminds me of like one of my first RPG experiences was Final Fantasy X on PS2.
Yes,
that was such a. It's still like to this day is one of my top 5 games of all time personally for me. Okay, not for the world, for me personally. We'll throw that
top
out there.
5 for me. You're among friends on that one.
Yeah, so you understand the story. Like I definitely understand where you're coming from. Basically, just wow, so much emotion in a video game. I never knew this existed in here. It's so amazing,
Where
man.
did the water come from? I don't understand.
That's funny. All right, Professor Panda. So the first segment we're going to get into is your character creation. So with every video game, there's always a creation of your main character, and that is you, sir. So we're going to go through a little journey of who you were and what everything happened to bring you who you are today. So let's start off with your name, Professor Panda. Why that name?
It's so interesting too, because I think out of every question that we get from folks coming in, that's probably asked more than anything else, because it's two worlds that have no correlation to each other. And I think there's an expectation, or at least an assumption, that comes with both of those, and I don't represent either of those. So it's this weird mesh of why.
Yeah.
So the way to explain it is yeah, I know, I know, Nick. Sorry, I was watching chat.
That's cool.
To answer your question though, is the Brofessor piece. So in college, one thing that I didn't realize until much later is the way that I seem to learn and retain information is by reading material, translating it and then teaching it to others. That is the way that I have learned that I learn by teaching others, which is a very strange methodology because I've never heard of anybody doing that before. But so what I would do is for after hours and like coffee shops and stuff like that, instead of folks a lot of folks in our kind of core group, instead of like paying for tutors, we would go to a coffee shop and I would basically have prepped the material and taught it in effectively Panda speak. This is how I understand it, which is it's simplified and it's to the bare bones of what I need to know and how this works. And that became a very poignant thing that I did throughout most of my college experience. And so from that, the nickname Brofessor came from, because I was the bro you came to if you ever needed to know something, when even paying for a tutor, they just couldn't put it in terms that you would understand. So it's just a nickname that has stuck for really a long time for me, and I've just I wore it like a badge of honor, I guess.
Nice.
It makes me very happy because it's for me it's a reference to helping others grow, because that is what's important to me.
Yeah.
And the panda part of that is much simpler, but also it's silly, but it makes me a happy panda. A lot of people think because I am a big fan of pandas, that's just the reason why. But it's the main reason is my sweet little bamboo, or my fiance, who's actually I think she's with us as well, Vexada. And early when we got to get excellent. When we got together early on, we have a lot of pet names for each other, and one of the names that she gave me early on was her panda. So that's something that I also wear it like a badge of pride, because she's my main source of inspiration. So being able to represent myself in a way that ties back to her makes me the happiest panda I could be. A big cuddly bear.
Yeah, she says. Yeah, she says. So people that are listening through podcasts, his wife actually just put in the chat, he's a big cuddly bear. That's adorable. That's adorable. Well, I'm happy for y'all's relationship. It seems like she's doing a very good job, as happy as you are.
No, yeah, 100%. I'm humbled by her. She's making milestones much better than I am, for sure.
Damn, well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Successful relationship, sir. You're truly blessed. I want to go back to when you said when you would take an information, translate it, and then teach it. What did you mean by translate?
So one thing that I found, because I was in very technical kind of studies, in a field that really at the time, it's information systems. So it's an area of like that. There's a baseline understanding, but the entire purpose of it is trying to help people that need technology put it in a way that makes sense to them. That if you are somebody that doesn't understand how to use a computer or how to use an application or a phone, how can we make it so you understand it better? That was the entire concept, which is still something that we're still trying to understand every day, because we wouldn't need tech support or help or help support if everything worked the way we needed it to.
Yeah.
So using that as a base concept, what I would do is, so let's say we'll take chemistry as an example. I'm not a chemist. I don't know what the bamboo, this element from this one is, but I needed to understand it to be able to. So what I would do is I would take the material, I would read through it and see where they're coming from and what we need to know. I would translate it to say, okay, well, this is what's pertinent. I need to know that this is an important chemical reaction because of blank. This is what we need to know. This happens because of this. For example, and then I would use kind of real world examples to tie it back, because the way that it helped me understand was not that I need to know that A plus B equals C. I need to know that if, it's the old running examples of, if John had 3 apples and Jane had 2, you put them together, who ate the apples? Like putting it in that concept is very much is the way that I would translate. And then I would use that as a way of, when I met with somebody, I would teach it in that concept. And then as I got to know the person and understand where their mindset was and what was relevant to them, I would translate it that way. So if somebody came from an area that, really gaming wasn't their thing, then me using gaming metaphors didn't make sense. So I needed to understand what was relevant to them, and I would put it in that perspective. So if you were a musician, everything would be music based, that sort of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you would adapt to their lingo and their way of understanding, because of course everybody learns differently, but you would understand
Absolutely.
that.
I would try my bamboo best too.
I can't wait to get to those stories. But before that, let's start from the beginning. So where are you from?
Okay, originally from Tennessee.
The Midwest. Okay.
The Midwest, yeah.
I'm originally from Indiana.
Oh, wow, there you go.
Yeah.
Just south of you then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm gone now. I'm in Texas now.
I had Florida here, so.
So you understand. We got away from the snow.
You got it. You got it.
How was your experience with the snow over there?
If I had to be completely honest, I always thought that was the most peaceful time I ever saw outside. Snow to me represents so very much in terms of calmness and because snow in itself, and I realize this is probably a little bit more extensive than what you were wanting an answer for, but
No,
I've always seen snow as a medium of a lot of people see snow and think of dead because everything dies in the cold, but there's a beauty to it because the cycle of snowing effectively gives the opportunity for fresh plants to grow when that cycle comes back. And it's always a beautiful sight to see the stillness that happens when it snows outside, because nothing's moving, things are less busy. It was just moments of stillness. So I always felt like when it snowed, you had an opportunity to almost like it's like the world got a chance to breathe. So it was always, for me, it's actually one of the things that I really miss sometimes is not having those moments of stillness, because in Florida, no, that's not how it works.
Can only imagine.
Yeah, so that's kind of to answer your question, probably in a much more elongated way.
Yeah, no, please feel free to be as elegant as you want. I'm here to learn about you, sir. So if you explain it in that way, please do. So how was it like growing up in Tennessee?
It was interesting. I will say we've been in Florida for a few years here, and I all things considered, I enjoy different experience because in Tennessee and growing up in Tennessee, one thing that really surprised me about it is that it's not very modern, but it's purposely not modern. So everybody still has this concept of, like a town working together, a town growing together, and like keeping things kind of small, kind of like small townish. But then going to places like Memphis and Nashville, you see these big booms of not just technology, but diversity and equality. And it's just like it made me so happy, especially in Memphis, because you just go into this boiling pot of different cultures and experiences, and it's beautiful. So I think growing up in more like smaller towns, I didn't really get to see the beauty of that exists in that area. But when I went to school and got a chance to live in areas that promoted diversity, it just I wouldn't trade it for the world. So
okay. You have any siblings?
Yes, have a older sister and a.
How's your relationship with your siblings growing up?
Fine. It was very interesting because being the middle panda cub, it was always this weird place of we also laugh because you could almost divide the emotional spectrum between us, because with my sister, she was much more of the extrovert, the extreme emotion. With my younger brother, it was very much the opposite, extremely introverted. And then with me, I was this weird. I was neither. Like, I mean, right now I feel like I am very much I am an Energizer Panda bunny that I kind of keep going, and I get inspired by talking to others. But at that age and growing up, it was not the case. I was very much just I was neither introverted nor extroverted, so it was very interesting. So it made us interact very weird because we didn't know how to talk to each other in a sense. But overall, other than that, it was I think it was okay.
Did they were they also involved in gaming?
Not necessarily at first. My sister was never her forte. She was very much she was much more into social outings and things like that. And my younger brother, because he was so introverted and because I was in gaming early on, it was easy for me to introduce it to him, and that became a major facet for him. It also became a very easy way for us to bond because because again, that is a medium that I've always felt is if you can't speak to each other directly, you can speak. There are other mediums you can utilize to talk to each other, and co-op gaming, or couch gaming, better said, was one of those.
Couch gaming, I like that.
Yep.
Well, how was gaming introduced to you?
Oh wow. So I think it's actually a very very funny. It's a very silly story, but I'll never forget. We were one thing that we were a big fan of is there were like I don't know the correct name for them, but they were shops where there were families that would buy stuff that people were throwing away and they would refurbish it and basically they would sell it out of their home. So it's kind of like the concept of a
like a resale garage sale type deal,
sort of that, but more like an actual business thing. And it's very strange. It wasn't something I've seen anywhere else, but that was really big where we were growing up. And I remember that that's where I first got introduced to a lot of things like comics. I mean, my first comics were found there. I fell in love with the concept of that. My first fiction novels, they came from there. Like it was just that was a bastion of just I never knew what I was going to find. And one thing that was there was one was an old Super Nintendo, and that was how I got introduced to that becoming a strong interest, and then the rest is history in that regard. But the second was an old like Dell PC that just it was not working. It was busted, and I took that home, and when I was a Panda Cub, I refurbished it and got it working. So I actually, at a young age, I had the opportunity to experience PC gaming as well at a very young age as well, because that gave me that avenue to do that as well. So I would say it was almost not necessarily a pawn shop, but it was like this shop that gave me these gems that have become a constant part of my day-to-day now.
Yeah, it's a very interesting business model. I've never heard of it. I wonder if people still do it.
I don't know. I don't know how money was made from it, but I'm always thankful because.
But you're always there to give them your money. Yeah.
You got it. That's right.
So you said Super Nintendo. What games did you play on there?
Oh man, so as mentioned, Mega Man was probably my first really big go-to. I was a Mario Panda. I love Super Mario.
A Mario Panda, nice.
Yeah, I was a big fan of anything that I could get my hands on Nintendo side as well. Super Ghouls and Ghosts, you name it. There's very little I think that I probably didn't at least try at least once, because I never wanted to make an assumption that a game was bad. I always wanted to at least give it an open and honest attempt, and if I didn't like it, I moved on.
Yeah, but why Mega Man?
So it's very interesting, and I've thought about this as goofy of a panda that I am. I've actually gone back and thought about it because I never understood why Mega Man itself was such a memory for me and such a nostalgia. And then I realized that there was something, and again, it's just like Legend of the Dragoon. I'm a wordy AF panda, and I just for some reason I can't help but infer a deeper meaning on anything that I do, as silly as it is. And the best way I could answer that is I think Mega Man was poignant because the one thing that you learn through Mega Man is you come from somebody that effectively is built to do a specific purpose. And
Mm-hmm.
through any of the Mega Man games you have, you are defeating nemesises and you are gaining something from them. And so the way I look back on it, it was almost a way of teaching me that if you're ever faced with a quote unquote nemesis, which is, your self-doubt or something, an obstacle you feel like you cannot cross, defeating that, not only does that help you move forward, but you gain something from it. You will always pick something up by overcoming an obstacle. And the important thing about Mega Man is every time that you fight something and you gain an ability, it helps to counter another. So the more you grow, the more you accomplish, the stronger you are at defeating other obstacles that get in the way. So it was almost like a way of me being able to know that, no matter how tough things may feel, moving forward, regardless of how you move forward, you're only going to be stronger at the end of it. So
It's a beautiful concept of Mega Man.
I know. Like I said, I can't explain it. It just
How soon? How quick did you like come up with that philosophy of Mega Man after playing it?
Man, I honestly, it probably wasn't till my paradigm shift that a lot of this really started coming to fruition for me, because it might have been there early on, but everything was for me.
Mm-hmm.
I probably it probably was early on, but I probably couldn't have verbally kind of put it together till at least midway through college, I would say.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that paradigm shift here later on in the show. Interesting. So we spoke about your relationship with your siblings. How was your relationship with your parents?
It was interesting for sure. I would definitely say that it wasn't anything that was normal, I would say, because it was definitely a split household. So it was not anything that it wasn't even in a I knew that they were there, and I knew they were trying their bamboo best to support me, but I don't know. It was. I look back on it now, and it does make me laugh sometimes, because it was a case of I never really felt that we had an established relationship together till much later on, when I was a Panda Cub, because they were definitely there and they were apart, but it wasn't anything that I ever felt that was needed, because I was always in this mindset of I'm walking on my own, I'm moving forward on my own. So it was a very different relationship than most, but yeah. So I would say that the Grandpappy Panda for the Panda Nation and Papa Panda for me, he's solid. He's definitely solid. We still have a pretty active relationship now. So
When you say a split household, like you said, you guys knew each other, existed in a sense, but what do you mean that? I'm assuming your mother. What do you mean she didn't really support you?
Well, I would say it definitely there was a lot of emotional distance, and I think that was one thing that I very much lean on and am grateful for gaming for what it did for me, because I think where I didn't have that initially established early on, from that kind of parental relationship, it was an avenue to help kind of educate me on that, because that was, and I've mentioned the paradigm shift as well, and I know we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. It wasn't until then that I really understood who I was and what I could do. It was very early on, and as a result of that is kind of a strange relationship. It made it where it was not till many years later that I felt like I even had a voice of my own, because it's and I know many that may be watching as well may also be going through some kind of, depending on, regardless of what age you are, being in a household that, either be it with divorced parents or split, whatever the case may be, there's always emotional, I don't even want to use the term trauma, but it almost feels like that when you're in the situation. And if there's anything I could say to that is, the one thing you never want to do is make it feel like it's on you. because it's a very easy place to go to. And I think if there's anything I learned from that, it would be that is it's very easy to feel like you in a situation like that going on, you feel like you don't matter or your voice doesn't have as much weight. But it's in those situations that I would say your voice matters the most. If there's anything that current Professor Panda could say to Panda Cub, Professor Panda, that I didn't know at the time that I had to learn later, it was just because you are not feeling emotionally taken care of doesn't mean there's something wrong with you, if that makes sense. If that answers your question as well. I realize that we're kind of on a bamboozling tangent there.
No, it's fine. Don't ever feel bad for going on a tangent. If it's a problem, trust me, I will stop you.
I appreciate that. That is appreciated.
So how did you, so before the paradigm shift and all this, while you were going through your teenage years and childhood, how did you interpret in your head emotion, even though you were lacking the emotional support from those where should have given it to you? Like, how did you handle that?
That's a really good question. And honestly, there's a test. The first one and probably the most powerful influence on my Panda life that I've had outside of gaming has been music. Music is probably the biggest avenue that I've ever had the joy of being able to experience, because I use learning music and just even listening to music as a very strong outlet early on. Because one thing that I realize is that one thing that a really good artist can do, and this isn't something specific to a genre. It can be hip hop, it can be EDM, it can be rock. Regardless of what your medium is, when a artist is a storyteller, their music says so much more than even the words that are being said. Sometimes the music itself, the instrumental, is so powerful. And I learned early on the power of that. Depending on how I was feeling, there's a genre that I could tie to. I mean, and I think very early on, a band I will always credit as growing up in the 2000s kid, a statement as I feel this is. But as a Panda Cub, probably one of my immediate go-tos have always been Linkin Park. Linkin Park was a band that I learned two very important things from. Especially when I had the absolute humble pleasure of meeting Chester Bennington once as well. Even hearing it from him helped infer that from me. Is one, it was a band that was not supposed to exist. It was hip hop and rock collaboration, which at the time were very much siloed. They were siloed, should not belong to each other, but they melded and they did it well. So it showed that you could blend worlds that didn't belong to each other. So it helped me overcome a lot of the, well, I'm feeling like an angry panda, but nothing's wrong and I don't know why. And that was a good medium that allowed me to vet a lot of that. And I feel like music played a very big role in a lot of that, trying to understand I'm feeling like this and I don't know why. And music was a way to help teach me some of that. The second big thing, if I had to tie it to anything else, because I'm saving the most important for last for sure. The second item I would probably tie to is actually not gaming specifically, but social gaming, like the era of multiplayer, your MMOs, things that it actually took gaming and made it more national or even international scaling, where and there's a lot of toxicity that exists around there, and I do understand that there's a lot of bad pandas out there, but for me it was a medium that I had the opportunity to meet other truly panda certified individuals that I still call friends today, from an early age. That just it was a cradle that I didn't realize that I needed, because it was a lot of individuals, good, bad, or indifferent, when they are behind the veil of the internet, their true emotion comes out. And for bad pandas, that's awful, but for others, and I think for really the majority of us, that's actually an opportunity that people can be more vulnerable. They can open up and just be honest with each other. And I think it's a beautiful thing when that happens. And then third, and I give the majority of the credit to when Vex walked in, when my sweet little bamboo, my fiance, because we were high school sweethearts that have continued. When we first got together, Vex kind of, because we were both coming from a situation that we had both had hearts broken, so we really didn't know. We really didn't know where to move forward, and we kind of found each other at the right time to piece each other's hearts back together, is the way that I like to tell it. And so she taught me how to be vulnerable with somebody again, and that I will always give her credit.
That's beautiful.
Sorry.
No, that's great.
Panda, I apologize.
No, stop! Don't apologize. So it seems like I'll just call her. Was it Vexada?
Yeah, or Vex is fine.
Vex. It seems like Vex is a very important part of your paradigm. How'd you guys
Always
meet?
has been. In high school, we actually, and it was very interesting. We had basically known each other for years because we grew up, but we had never directly interacted with each other, and we had both come from two very, very just sad, Panda, heartbreaking situations that happened. And I'll never forget it makes me laugh, because when I tell people that I used to not be able to, like, you and I having this conversation never would have happened, because I was so gun shy of talking to people at one point that I was so afraid of taking that step forward. So with Vex, because she is more introverted than I am, people think that I was the one that stepped forward to like instigate our relationship. And no, I will give her full credit, because it was just one day. I remember she walked up to me and she just handed me a note and she just left. She just booked it. I was like, what? I was like, it just, and so I read the note, and it made me, I'll never forget, because it was basically, yeah, no, it was an introduction of basically who she was, what she liked, that she was also a big fan of the same music I was, that, and just basically it was just her way of really kind of just introducing who she was in her own way.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, because we still have all of our notes from then as well. I'll go back and look at it sometimes, because it makes me laugh, because in one page she put so much emotion into it, because it wasn't something she normally did. And just basically from then, what we ended up doing is we kept a notebook that we would pass between each other in classes, where we would each write a page-long note, pass it to the other, pass it back, and that was our relationship for about I'd say maybe a month. And it was like, this is, I knew then, and I'm always cautious to tell people that you never want to feel like, because love is fickle sometimes. But I knew very early on, this is my sweet little bamboo. This is the person that I want to see succeed. This is the person that I want to be there to help succeed. This is the person that I would love to go to the ends of the earth to try to do what I can for. And the rest is history. I've been very, very humbled that I found somebody as wonderful as she is so early on.
That's amazing. So you're mentioning that how much help you wanted to put into her life, see her grow and all that wonderful things. But what was it that she gave you?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that, because there's actually there's a lot that she's done that I know she'll never take credit for, but I will always give her for it. And the first one, as mentioned, from a very early time, she gave me confidence in others again, because I remember, and it's as much of a silly Panda statement as this is, I remember that I was like, if there is somebody that exists as wonderful as she is, the world can't be as much of a just a bad Panda zone as I thought it was. It can't be this place that I used to see as I'm more pessimistic than optimistic, right? It was a catalyst for me to really understand, to look at others in another light, and that is a gift that she gave me very early on. The second, she gave me something that I really really didn't realize I needed, and that was seeing somebody else that was willing to be vulnerable with me. And I know that seems very strange, but early on, I was always so afraid of being vulnerable with others because it always felt like I would be a burden to somebody else, because you never want to feel like you're burdening somebody with your emotion. And I think very much that's the biggest struggle with a lot of mental health right now, is that's the core of it. You
Mm-hmm.
feel like you were a burden to others, and that's not true in any shape, form, or fashion. But as a panda cub, that was where my mind was. But then I saw her being willing to open up with me and be honest and be vulnerable and let me know how she's truly feeling about things. And I had the opportunity to see what, when somebody's vulnerable with me, me being able to help with that, me being able to provide, not necessarily guidance, but at least provide what somebody being vulnerable really needs, which is an arm and an ear sometimes, if nothing else, just to listen, not necessarily to speak. And it was just a very life changing moment for me to be in that position versus the position I had been before, which is just nobody cares, so why should I ever say anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then probably the third thing more than anything else is she has given me any ambition that I have, like the regardless of what we get into in this conversation, that the ability to even start content creating, the ability to ever try something new, the ability to keep moving forward, at the core of everything, what defines me today, I will always say she was the foundation of, because I would not have the confidence to move forward if I didn't know she was in my corner, whether she's there physically or not. That's saying, you got this, keep going. Don't let yourself be consumed by what you're trying to fight. So
You're blessed, man.
I truly
You're
am.
blessed. It's always interesting. Like, I know this is not really the best topic for most people. They're like, relationship, ew. But it's the one of the biggest things that really stood out for me is that she was the person that she was proof to you that the world isn't so bad. Is what it makes, like, wow, like good people still exist. So I hope people that are listening to this is that, like how Panda said, like if you feel like you're a burden to other people and life really has you down, and due to unfortunate circumstances, there's always people that care. Like there's an interesting quote I read in the internet, is that strangers on the internet will care for you more than the people that you grew up with.
Yeah.
So I mean, you grew up with your wife, obviously, but you're the exception. But
Right.
It's a pretty good general statement. So,
Absolutely. And if there's anything, if I can, not to interrupt, my apologies.
Oh,
It's,
okay.
I always like to put an asterisk, because I was very lucky that Vex when I did.
Mhm.
But I always tell folks is the one strength that she and I have that I feel like sometimes gets lost in the fray, because the reason I think she and I are so strong now, and the reason we have been together as long as we have, is not because we are so dependent on each other, but through this early on, we have found our independence. That in doing so, we are strong on both of our own feet. We mesh so well together, it works. So I never want somebody to feel like they're not strong enough on their own. And so when they look for somebody, that they look for their own sweet little bamboo, you want to find somebody that you want to care for, and that inspires you the way she does me. But she is not, you don't want to find somebody that is your reason for existing, because you matter in the midst of that. And that's where that fine line of where love and toxic love come into play. So when I tell my story about how we're together, because I could just spend this entire time talking about how amazing she is. I will go ahead and put that on the table right now. But the lesson I always want to say is find somebody that loves you the way that you should love yourself. That's the way that I try to always infer it, because you should never have somebody that you are loving to fill a hole. You should be loving somebody that is just making your heart larger, if that makes any sense at all.
No, it makes perfect sense. That's just a nice gif. I like that.
Love it, Amphibious. Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, somebody in the chat, for the people that are listening, we had Amphibious one in the chat. He put in a gif of just two pandas hugging. It's adorable. It's amazing, man. Well, again, congratulations, Vex. I applaud you, and that you found this man, even though you ran away from him at first. It's cool. That's cute. It's cute. I'm the luckiest. Well, I mean, y'all can debate on that in your own time. But
exactly. Yes, exactly.
Y'all can debate that on your own time. But I'm just saying, both of y'all are very lucky, of course. Of course. So we're in high school, and you met Vex. You said you mentioned that you went to college. But before you get into that, was this before or after your paradigm shift that you went to college?
The paradigm shift happened in college.
Okay, so you go to college. Why'd you go to college?
Yep. I think the two defining reasons for me was it felt like the only option, and I always say that very often. A lot of folks that, and I'm hoping those watching, if you feel like this, if you're coming from this, there's a lesson learned from it, is that you feel like it's either go to college or you are stuck, that there is nothing else to do if you don't move forward, especially in a lot of households that are very foundational on that. And while I will say I am humbled by what I've learned and my experiences through doing so. It's one of many paths that are available. It's not everybody necessarily feels the drive for that, and that's completely fine. That's not a defining form of success. It just, you need to know if that's your direction. If it requires it, then consider it that way. But don't feel like that's the only avenue. But for me, I felt that at the time, and then two, I was in a place that I felt so out of place sometimes, because with technology booming at the time, and really in 2008 era like that, tech was really starting to boom at the time. And when you're in small towns, it was always the last in line to catch up. So I felt like if I wanted to be on this wave of technology and understanding like what the future holds, I needed to go somewhere that I could go to school and learn and evolve with it effectively. So that's probably the two main reasons why.
So explain the paradigm shift.
Okay, my favorite story to always. There are folks that when I meet them and I tell them I was one of the most introverted scene, they think that I'm goofing them, because I realize I don't necessarily come off that way. And so the paradigm shift I always tie as the reason. And so the paradigm shift, what happened was I woke up one morning and it was just another day. And though I was in college, and Vex and I were in a effectively a long distance relationship at the time, because she was still finishing up high school while I was in college. So we didn't have the same communication styles we did before. So I was in this weird mindset of, where do I go from here? I didn't feel like I was happy in school. I really had a moment of just, I will always say my saddest panda moment I've ever had. I really felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. And I don't know. It made me, it was the day that I drug my panda pause the entire day. But on this particular day, I had a communications class, and we were expected to do what's referred to as a call to action speech, which is you have to pick a topic that you have that you were adamant about, and the entire point of it, indifferent to every other speech I'd ever done, is you have to convince others that this is a topic that you should get behind, not in the sense of this is important because of A, B, and C. This is the, if you need to yell, you yell. If you need to pound on the desk, you, but like, find something that you really really care about and convince us why it matters. And I remember that I chose, it was such a bizarre topic for me, because I was like, I realized what I was doing, because in the area that I was in, this was going against the grain for a lot of people. But it was a at the time there was a lot of it was an era when a lot of the mindset was, if you didn't necessarily believe a certain way, or you didn't necessarily look a certain way, then you were not in the norm. And the concept of that, it absolutely, because this was my first taste of really seeing diversity at work where I was going to school, because you had all of these international communities that were coming together, working together, and it made me such a happy panda seeing that, because diversity has always been a very important part of my life, as mentioned with, you know, with my experience, as silly as the reasoning for it, the Legend of the Dragoon taught me early on that regardless of who you are, that it should never define anything other than just that we're all pandas at the end of the day, right? And the person before me, they did a speech on effectively, it was something I don't remember the day, because the day I blacked out after the paradigm happened. But they did a speech almost counterintuitive that basically like something along the lines of like traditions are more important than like traditional marriage and things like that. Not to get into specificity to derail the conversation, but it was something that I very much was not, I was countering the point almost wholeheartedly. And so I sat and I listened to this, and I remember I was like, I can't do this. I cannot do this. I should not speak. I should not. I shouldn't say anything. I remember these hesitations started to build up, that this is not my place to say this. I'm just me. Why am I the one that's going to try to take on this voice, right? And I just remember I went up there. Bruce, come on now, buddy. Sorry. The little cats maybe come to hang out with us. But I remember that I went up there, and all I remember is that I took my speech that I had planned out. I wrapped it up, or I crumbled it up, and I threw it, and I just started just like it just all I remember is that this wave of emotion just absolutely just started just pouring out of my mouth, and just I couldn't refrain myself from just being poignant, but being very factual of, this is not okay, this is why. And I remember like I had a panda paw pounding the podium. I was like, my entire body was just thrown into all of this emotion that I'd never experienced before. And it was, I remember when I finished, you know, it was very much, it was well received, and it was very much it was very much, I got a lot of backing as a result of it, which is good, but that's not the point. What's up, buddy? But the more important part of that is I remember that when I finished, it was almost like the old Professor Panda was almost like I was almost like a snake with a skin that needed to be molted, and it just almost like it got ripped off, because I remember I left the classroom, and everything was different. It was such a shocking point that I remember I called Vex after that, and I talked different, I acted different, I had this oomph, this pep in my panda paw step, that I was like, this is that my, you know, not that my voice matters per se, but that I shouldn't be, I should never feel like I should speaking on something that I believe is right again. And it just, and from there, I just, everything else is history. I was no longer who I was before. I was somebody that was adamant about helping others, taking that first step forward to reaching out to make sure somebody was okay. That I wanted to step up and make sure that others that were feeling the way that I used to feel, that they had their voices held. So if it was lifting up others to make sure that their voices were heard, whether it was taking that extra time to make sure that they moved alongside me, not that I moved in front of somebody else. It became a strong passion of mine to make sure that I was a voice that was helping. I was using my voice to make sure others could be heard louder. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. But what I'm curious about is, what was the speech that triggered you to get into this paradigm? What was the person talking about?
So more specifically, what it was. It's such a strange topic thing. But the thing that got me so riled up, there was a particular which I suppose they're still around. It was regarding the Westboro Baptist Church, and it was public news at the time that they had protested at a funeral and of a fallen soldier that had come back, and it was just I mean, I'm going to be transparent. What I personally find as very grotesque statements, things that I think should it's absolutely just bad Panda statements that are not acceptable. And I remember it was so infuriating to see people use a medium that's so good, something like somebody's faith, as a tool of toxicity and so blatantly that I like I said, I'd never had that kind of emotion blow up before. And I use my podium to talk about how that, regardless of how you feel on the spectrum, there are baseline foundations of what is and is not okay. And a foundation of this world should be that we are all equal pandas. We're all pandas at the end of the day. We all deserve the same amount of love, respect, and safety that each one of us should get, regardless of who we are, where we came from, and what we do. That's always been foundationally for me. And the fact that there are other individuals out there that can believe otherwise, it blew my mind. So my call to action was that we have to get to a point that we have to speak out against what I would effectively call bad pandas, but really hatred. That if there is hatred that exists in the world, and there are individuals that are using platforms to promote that hatred, we have to stop that. And that was basically what my call to action was. Exactly, Amphibious. Exactly. Oh, sorry, I realized I keep.
It's fine.
On chat. My apologies.
It's fine. It's fine. It's a habit as a streamer. It's a habit. It's fine.
Absolutely.
So my next question is, okay, so you believe that everybody should be treated as equal. Why do you think you had this all bottled up and it took to that point for it to just explode from out of you?
Probably two main reasons. One, because one thing I want to say is the perspective never changed. I've always felt that way, but it was the difference in feeling like that my voice mattered. I guess is the way I would say that I, regardless of how I felt myself, that I still had a voice. And at the time I didn't feel that way, that because of who I perceived myself as, I did not feel like my voice deserved to be heard. And I realized that's where a lot of that came from. And I think just seeing something that was done and was being treated as such a normal thing, it felt like that it was that moment of No, enough is enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And probably the second thing more than anything else was I it was definitely, as I mentioned earlier in that day, that I had hit a point that I was just dragging Panda paws. I wasn't happy with the where I was working. I wasn't happy with school. I remember that I was so emotionally drained at not ever feeling like I had those emotional attachments, because Vex and I were together at the time, and I had her as that medium.
Mm-hmm.
But what the problem was, and this is why I mentioned earlier about you have to make sure that you are you have somebody that loves you the way you should love yourself. Because I was at a point that I think I really didn't love myself, and when I say that, it was a place of no matter what happened, I felt like it was that I was just there to exist at the time, and it was a very sad Panda sentiment, you know. And I think those two things coupled with just having a platform for the first time, even if it was just in a college classroom, but having an opportunity that one person gave me an opportunity to stand in front of others and be heard, and be heard by what's on something that mattered to me. I think those two things, just that's what triggered it. Because once I had that platform and I was able to say something that that Professor Panda truly believed in, it was like I couldn't go back, because I had a taste of being able to be who I was for the first time. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect. Like, not only be yourself for the first time, but like fully expressing who you are
Yeah,
for the first
correct.
time, and in such a dramatic manner. I wish I was. I wish I was there. I wish I was there for that. It'd have been interesting to watch. Well, yeah, that's an amazing story. I feel like, again, like I keep thinking about, the whole Black Lives Matter movement. Like, I feel like it did.
Absolutely.
Like, that's what I keep thinking. It's like it's crazy how diversity can split us up more than it should. Just because we are diverse doesn't mean we should be diverse.
Exactly. And I think, just to add on to that's the one thing in the middle is the most, I think is the one thing that bamboo is, that there is a call for a debate for this. Because to me, there's not. I mean, the statement is Black Lives Matters, and they do. That's the point. And to say that there is a counterpoint to that there is an argument, regardless of how you want to define it, it doesn't make sense to me. Because at the end of the day, the point is trying to be made. Voices are reaching out to be heard, and to not have the gut instinct to listen. And that, because that's I think this would be such a different medium, is if folks took the time to listen versus react and then infer. Because that's really where I think a lot of the problem is now. And not just for what's going on right now, but the first time Black Lives Matter started up, every time that we've gone through this cycle, every single time, it's been the same cyclical experience of there's an item that happens, and as we've gotten, we've had one of the one thing that makes me humble Panda about technology is the only thing that's changed through the years is we have more ways of making sure it's recorded, that it's visual, that it's hard for you to deny it. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's forced the conversation more and more the more visual it is. And I definitely am of the mindset of, I think if a lot of this could have been avoided if there were individuals that had the ability to make change, instead of just reacting and then inferring and then trying to band-aid, would take the time to stop, listen, and make sure that foundationally we are confident enough in ourselves to make the changes that are needed, regardless of what they're going to look like, because it's not going to be easy because they're foundational changes. But just because it's foundation doesn't mean it can't be changed.
Well, we're definitely seeing the change now.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I would. If there's anything that I always like to point to, especially with that look at what's going on, and they're like, I can't believe this is happening now. I always like to use, only because I always joke that I'm a panda that wears many hats. So I'm gonna put on my history panda hat for a second. That I always like to point people, if you want the perfect example of why we're seeing the reaction now that we are, I say all you have to do is look at what happened during the Vietnam War. It was a thing that was so separated from everybody in their homes until it was something that was live on television. When people saw what was going on, that it was not something that they could just turn their head and be neutral about, that they could actually see what was happening. It changed the mindset of the country. And it's I think that's why I always point to technology being such a foundational institute of our progression in this fight, because the more that we have it visual and the more we have it that you can't turn your head away from this, that that's how change is made. And regardless of how that reaction happens, I feel like we're at that same point that we were years ago, even for a different purpose. So all right, history hat off.
No, I like, people need, that's another thing too, people need history lessons, man. People like, I can't believe they're acting the way they're acting. Be like, do you not understand what the fuck these like they went through? Like
exactly. That's it. All it takes is just a little bit of research.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit. It's,
just a little bit.
It's crazy, man. All right, so as we digress, you are in college.
Yes.
Did you stay? Did you graduate? Did you drop out? What'd you do?
I did. So I finished up school. It was interesting. Everything up until really, and it's silly to say it, but really when I started creating content on here, everything had been extremely streamlined for me. Where while I was in school, I got an internship. So when I finished school, I just continued in the job and the career path that set me on while I was in school. And then that career led me to Florida. And so I just basically, it's been so interesting that I always kind of knew my path of what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And that's kind of what led me up until the point that I started creating content on here. I'd say that's probably the second paradigm shift that happened. But yeah, so I finished up school. I went there. I went on to get my master's shortly after that. And again, just kind of continued down that path that I thought that I wanted to do. And then here we are now. So
and then here we are now. Yeah, I see you in the chat, guys, mentioning that the mic is cutting out in and out every now and then. Yeah, oh, no. It's fine. Yeah, it's just internet things. It's how it is. We can't control the internet. It happens every now and then, y'all.
And one thing I can try to do to help with this as well.
See, like it just did it right now.
Let's try this. How about now? Is that better? Let's just do a quick test, see if everything's smooth. Hopefully it doesn't. All right, so what I'm going to have to do is just hold the push to talk button, and hopefully that keeps it from stopping from picking up.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That could be it. Who knows? Yeah. So far so good. What's up, Krampus? Welcome to stream. Yeah. So graduated college. How did you get into streaming?
Yeah, good question. Okay. Vex, good to know. Apparently, she's seeing some lag on our side as well. So hopefully we're better now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm literally holding a button down. Hopefully that will that will keep us active now. But yeah, so streaming. I was warn folks that I always do lists. So if I ever give topics like that, it's how the bamboo brain works. I apologize for that. But so the things that got me into streaming, there's always three things that I've started to point to. One was there's somebody that I co-stream with, and it's a dear friend of mine. His name is Fate Walker, and Fate used to stream on Twitch and moved over to Mixer. So he currently streams on Mixer here, and I'll be completely transparent. The streaming world is something that I'm still very new to, not even just as a streamer, but as a watcher, because
Okay.
I'm not sure why, but I never made the time to see what the streaming community and streaming content was about.
So real quick, when you say watcher, do you mean like a consumer of streaming?
Yeah, a consumer.
Okay,
Yes,
all
better
right.
said. It was something that I'd never looked at before. Now I will say I was a huge a YouTube panda. YouTube was my go-to for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was where I initially started before I started getting into the streaming world that I'm in now. And so Fate was one that I saw him doing it, and it was very much an inspiration, seeing somebody that I knew personally, that I saw as a true friend, having the confidence to be able to do something like that. It was a real inspiration to see. Well, I mean, maybe because it always seemed like something that, like, you need to have X, Y, and Z, and you need to have all this stuff to be able to start. So it was just like, it's not nothing ever I'd invest in. So moving on. But so so he was one. The second, and this is gonna sound, again, I feel like I'm a goofy panda for it, but it's me being honest. The second catalyst was tying to YouTube. There was a content creation group called Funhouse under Rooster Teeth, previously Inside Gaming, that I found myself just, there was a lot of their content that I remember. There are very few things in this world that made me just guffaw, and that was a group that was able to do that very easily. And one of their main cast members, Bruce Green, actually left to effectively become a full-time streamer on Twitch. And so when that happened, I'm like, oh, well, I want more. I want to see more of this. What exactly is this? So I started investing time, seeing what it was about, and it was different. It was very, because as I'm sure you know, the mediums are very different on how the YouTube world lives and how streaming lives. But I found myself very much enjoying it as a consumer. And then the third thing that happened was, and I just, being as transparent as I can, the announcement came about Ninja moving to Mixer. And as much as I am humbled to be here, I also have to be honest. I did not know what Mixer was. Never heard about it before. Didn't know what Mixer was, and so when I heard about this move, I'm like, what's Mixer, right? So I went to go and check Mixer out, and I kind of started thumbing through some of the content creators here, and I found an individual, and I will always point to him as the person that I was like, yeah, this I like what's here. And there's a content creator by the name of Norm Rhodes, that's another partner here on Mixer. And Norm was probably the most welcoming individual I have ever had the pleasure of meeting, in terms of like just walking in for the first time. Because I walked in, I said hello, he said hello back. I made a panda pun, and he fell out of his chair laughing. But just like the energy, the connection, the relationship we almost instantaneously established just from the conversation that on here. And I realize it is a creator thing, but I will always say Mixer gave me the ability and gave and welcomed that personality, because he was a partner at the time.
Yeah.
So clearly Mixer wanted that represented for who they are. And those three things, I was like, I don't know why, but I kind of want to, I kind of want to give this a try. And then I booted up one day with and I feel good, bamboozled saying it. I had a lamp right over here. I had a desktop, a laptop computer, and I had a headset with a terrible microphone, and I booted up one day and just gave it a try.
And you started on Mixer, like no Twitch, no nothing, just right on Mixer.
Kicked right off on Mixer as my first attempt, and that was 7.5 months ago. So
7.5 months, and here you are. Well, okay.
Yeah.
So before my next question, so is it because of him? Is the reason why you chose Mixer as your streaming platform?
I honestly, there's I would say that was probably a very big influence to see what the Mixer community was like. The probably the reasons I chose Mixer is one, I seeing Mixer for the size that it was at the time, and what I saw, I felt like what I saw on Twitch was a much larger pool that existed, that I did not know if being just a positive panda, if that would flourish over there, because the big Twitch streamers that I saw, none of them had the personality that I had, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. That shouldn't detract somebody from trying a platform, because go where you feel comfortable. But it was something that it scared me at first, on choosing that as a platform. But when I saw the individuals that I started interacting with as a consumer on Mixer, I'd say 90% of anybody that I talked to and that I engaged with, it was welcoming. It wasn't necessarily the way that I promote panda positivity, of course, but it was welcoming always. I felt like I could engage regardless if it was your the queen with over 100,000, your video game diva, or even just somebody picking up for the first time. I feel like it was very much, you always had a place at the table regardless of where you went.
Yeah, Mixer's always been famous for that. Like, it has such a great community, not just the people, but like the streamers. And you made a good choice, my friend.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. And it's all that have been proven in these last 7.5 months is the individuals that I have had the opportunity to meet, everybody that's in the Panda Nation, and even folks like yourself that are helping to promote the messages, and the individuals that you've had on this podcast already as an example. It's proof that this is an engine that wants to see itself succeed, and that's very humbling.
Of course. So tell us about your road to partnership.
Actually, yeah. Okay. So I've always said, and I know I'll reiterate this later on as well, but our goal when I first set this out, if I was going to give anything for why I do what I do, it is to, one, try to promote panda positivity. I wanted to make sure, even if we had one person that sat and watched for 15 minutes, if that one person felt like a little bit more inspired about who they are as a person, that they just felt more uplifted, or they felt like they could finish the rest of the day just a bit more uplifted, then I would consider that a successful stream. That's been my intent from the beginning, is just trying to make sure that as many people as I could make sure that they know that they are better than who they think they are. They are their best self, right? And so when we started streaming, I have two avenues that I will always say my road to partnership has been layered with. One of them is the network that exists within Mixer, because I found myself so enticed to try to promote panda positivity that if I wasn't If I wasn't streaming to try to do it myself, I tried to spend time in other content creators' streams trying to help that person do the same thing. Because not from a not just a hey everybody make sure to follow that person, because that's something I always usually kick off with, like, hey, if you're watching, just press that heart, let's do it, right? But also just to make sure that individual has in the midst of whatever their routine is, if I could come in and just break it up and be like, hey, have a bamboo filled day, you know what you're doing, you got this, you're a professional, keep moving forward, like just to try to make sure I could provide a spark even as a consumer to that person. Is something I try to do. And through that journey, what I have found is that there were several other partners and content creators that resonated with that perspective. One of my favorite examples of all time will be Poison Kill. Poison Kill was an individual that I don't was not partnered when I first met him, but is somebody that also really focuses on having a positive environment and just having an overall just an incredible experience that when you're there, you're family, right? And our worlds finally collided by accident, and it was such an incredible moment because I saw not only can you be somebody that tries to promote positivity, but you can do it, you can be genuine, and Mixer will recognize it because Poison was partnered as well. So that was an inspiration to say, just keep doing what we're doing. And then all of a sudden we saw this just explosive growth out of nowhere. We would see these just absolutely undeserved raids from Norm Rhodes and from all of these others, that these communities that I was focusing so hard on trying to help like lift their community up, that it just accidentally would tilt back on me sometimes. And that was never the intention, but it was just like, whoa, wait a minute, this is not why I'm doing what I'm doing. So it was incredible to see the community as a whole start to reach out, right? And then it was just like we had these milestones that we would set, and we would make it not a Brofessor Panda milestone. This is a Panda Nation milestone. We were growing together. We were making milestones, and all of a sudden we blinked and we hit 2,000 followers. And it's like, before we even hit 6 months, and it's like, what happened? Like it was just this weird bamboozling moments. And I'm like, I couldn't figure out how we were moving as quickly as we were, right? And then I remember when I went to apply for partner, I obsessed with it for probably a week, the entire weekend. When I hit 2,000 followers, because I was like, okay, I've hit that mark. I should I do it? Should I not? Should I make changes before it? Like I remember I was panicked, and my absolute wonderful well, two things. One, a lot of partners I reached out to and was like, hey, this is me being vulnerable with you. I don't know what the bamboo I'm doing. What do you recommend? Right? Like I wanted to make sure that I didn't want to apply knowing that I wasn't going to succeed. Right. And then the other thing was, my community manager, I reached out and was like, I don't know what to do. I really don't know if I should, what we should fix. And we were really trying to figure out what to do. And I just remember the piece of advice in the mix of all that I got was like, just do it. Like why do you feel like you need to change something? Like you've made it to 2,000 followers, and you've made it to where you are because of who you are. If you try to change that and then apply, you're not being genuine. You're not being who you are. You're trying to paint up what got you here to begin with. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Why am I obsessing over this? So I took a deep breath. I pressed the apply button, and I stepped away. And I was like, I'm not going to tell anybody. I did not let anybody know that I applied. I was like, If they tell me no, they're going to tell me why, and I'm going to use that as a benchmark, because failure is not a failure. Failure is success, just telling you how to get there is the way I've always seen it, right? So, and then here we are.
And then you got partnered.
2 days later. Yeah, it was April Fool's Day. Yeah, that is fair to say. I should probably clarify that. I got the news that I was partnered on April Fool's Day. I got the letter.
Yeah.
And I just remember looking at it and I was like, now, I think I know Mixer. They wouldn't bamboo no, like I honestly, like, I remember I spent 30 minutes staring at the letter thinking about exactly right. I was like, this has got to be a joke, because it was like the turnaround time was just, it was insane, because I was honestly expecting to say, you have not grown enough and you're too young as a content creator that we want to partner you, right?
Yeah.
And then just we got it, and I was like, oh, and so then April 2nd, and then it continued, so I knew it wasn't a joke anymore, so I felt a lot better. So, yeah. But yeah, so that's the story of partnership.
Congratulations on your success, man. It makes me feel a little bit better about like immediately applying to that 2,000 mark, because you know, there's always different, you know, people have different experiences and stuff, but wow, April Fool's Day, that's funny.
Yeah, it was like, that's why I was like, I don't want to announce this today because people are going to think that I'm doing an April Fool's joke, because everybody was DMing me like, are you going to apply for partner, are you going to do this? And I was like, I just, you know, I didn't want to set the Panda Nation up for an expectation of it, because it's not about getting partnered. And that's what I always tell, if somebody gets rejected that first time, or regardless of when, that's not a sign that you won't be it, because they're giving you what you need to do to get where they feel like you need to be, right? And as you said, it's different journeys. It's just it is a case of use that as just do it, because if who you are is going to be your best self, so you once you hit that mark, all that does is you can vet that to say, hey, is who I am what Mixer wants to represent them? And if they're going to answer is going to be yes, but you need to do this, and that just tells you where you need to go, and you keep moving forward from there. That's my perspective, at least.
Yes, sir. It's a great perspective. Well, Professor Panda, that was amazing character creation. So you've had quite a journey.
Yeah,
I love it.
I'm a very humble panda.
It's also I keep smiling because you keep using panda references. So for the people, that are listening, why do you keep doing panda references?
No, that's honestly that's a fair that's a fair question, because whenever I talk to somebody that is not, like, when I'm streaming, I guess I don't know if they expect that the bro, panda, and bamboo puns go away, but they don't. It is very much just a genuine part of my core. And to answer the question, and it always throws people off, because they're expecting, like, okay, it's just a normal dude, right? And it's like, no, who you get is who I am. But to answer your question, what I have found is there was an old trick that I learned early on that just makes me the happiest panda, which is when you are talking to somebody that is when you're talking, it's a way of communicating that I learned early on, is when you're talking to, like, panda cubs, and you're talking to, or somebody that thinks differently than you are. So a trick that can be done is, instead of using your words or using their words, you come up with something that connects you both together. Come up with a language that almost both of you connect. And there's a lot of studies that twins do this as well, that there are things that connect them that are, you know, in, like, inside jokes, right?
Yeah.
That things that only are relevant to them, and they are things that they're great when you're a part of it, but they could be toxic when you're not, or you could infer that. So I use bro, panda, and bamboo puns as a way of taking topics that maybe have sharp edges, or taking what is just a normal conversation and trying to throw you off on it, because it makes me happy thinking of you're not just awesome, you're brotastic, you're not just certified, you're panda certified. Like just giving you a window of feeling that you not only do you matter, but you matter to me, and this is the way that I try to express it. If as goofy as that may sound.
Not goofy at all. I love it. It's amazing. Like what Darth Vader says in the chat, I love the whole panda thing that he has going on. It just fits perfectly. It really does, man. I love it so much. All right, Professor Panda. Well, that was your character creation. Now we're on to the next segment, which is setting your attributes. So with every character you create, there's always a set of attributes that you set yourself. So I'm going to name a few characteristic traits, and you rate yourself from 1 to 5, 5 being the highest. Are you ready, sir?
All right, let's do it.
Also, people in the chat, in the community, I do highly encourage y'all give your most humblest, respectful opinion to help be involved part of the podcast as well. So
they know me more than I know myself, so I agree.
All right, so we're going to start off slow. First one is going to be curiosity.
Ooh, and this is a scale of 1 to 5, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I would say 5.
Okay, why 5?
Because there's never anything that I look at that I either don't ask why or what can I do, how can I help improve it. Be it a situation, be it an item, or just really anything in general. Is I never look at something and take it at face value. Not from a trust perspective, because I always feel like whatever the perspective is or wherever we are, that there's always another layer. There's always something else. There's always room for improvement. And I find I gut reaction check those things. So that's definitely a 5 for me.
Awesome. Grit.
Can you define grit for me?
Able to persevere through hard times.
Ooh. I think on this one, I probably would say 5 with an asterisk. Because the 5 is for personal grit, like things that are going on. I have learned that if it's something that is a personal strife on my own, it doesn't really stop me. Like regardless of what I'm going through, good, bad, or indifferent, my goal is to try to, again, help promote panda positivity. That's what I enjoy doing, making somebody else's day better. Mm-hmm. And so regardless of that, I kind of wear it on the shoulders and I keep moving forward. That's just always been my mentality. The reason why I put an asterisk on that is the one thing that always is an immediate, like I will devote 100% of my attention to is if I see somebody else going through something. Like if I see somebody else that doesn't have what to put in this context, a high grit score, I immediately want to try to pull my points off and give to them. Like that it becomes my intention to try to help uplift them any way that I can. So it is, I say it's a detriment because it becomes I'm very sensitive to somebody else that doesn't have a high grit score. But in doing so, I think that has taught me to have a high one myself. If that makes sense.
It makes sense. It's a good answer. Patience.
I feel like, I just I feel like I'm bamboozling myself here, but I it's a 6.
A solid 6.
I'd have to say a 5 on this, and the only reason I say that is you could need days to do something that maybe only takes an hour, and I would wait for you until you were done. I do not succeed until we succeed. That's always been my mentality. So I think that patience is something that, while I don't have a lot of panda pride for myself, this is something that I will always go to the ends of the earth to say, I will always take time for you. So that's always been my motto.
Nice. He's one of the most patient people ever you met. Oh. Next one, stubbornness.
I would probably put this at a 2 or a 3, maybe a 2.5. And a 3, okay, yeah, we'll say 3. And the reason for that is my stubbornness is, like, I am always willing to change. I am somebody that comes to the table to say, I don't know the best way, but here's what I know. I'm somebody that is willing to grow and adapt as I need to.
Mm-hmm.
If there's any stubbornness, it's probably on my virtues. That, like, when I talk about equality and diversity and things like this, these are things that I will never waver from. And regardless of who it is, it could be something that I deem as somebody that is at some point a close friend. Those things that I feel that are fundamental rights, and things that are, like, if somebody goes out of their way to make somebody feel like a sad panda intentionally, to be toxic towards somebody intentionally, I am very adamant that my gut reaction is that's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, and there are friend circles that have that kind of relationship. I'm not necessarily talking about that to a degree. I'm talking more of the visceral, I am intentionally trying to make somebody feel less than themselves. I have no patience for that at all. So I'd say probably a 3 in that regard.
Forgiveness.
I had to give that a 5 because
Okay.
I think you can do something. You can bamboozle me as many times as you like, and I will learn from that. I will adapt, and it
100.
I will. I learn, and I will teach myself to trust but verify. But if somebody reaches out to me that needs help, regardless of what they've done, I will always take the time for them. And I don't know the concept of a grudge, regardless of how it is, because I feel like everybody has the ability to change. Just sometimes their stubborn score is a little too high that they realize it at first.
Vex says in the chat, 5 to his own detriment sometimes. Okay,
Very
makes
much
sense. All right, spirituality.
Oh, that's an interesting question, because when I think about spirituality, I have such a broad spectrum of it. Because I'm somebody that tries, like, I am very much somebody that is, I'm a panda cub of philosophy. I love philosophy. I love learning and engaging. Like, if somebody believes something, I want to know why. I want to know why they have faith in something. Not to be condescending, but I want to understand why they feel the way they do, because that helps me understand what, because I have faith in others. That is first and foremost where a lot of my faith is. And my spirituality, I think it very much evolves from that, because I used to have no, I used to not believe in others. I am now somebody that has, I will believe in you until I have no breath to believe in anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I have found that a lot of people resonate that with some form of spirituality. So I think for this, I would probably put myself at a 4, because I feel like myself is, I have so much faith in others that I think that is a reason that I keep moving forward in many regard. And I think that's a good category for that to fit in. If that answers the question.
It does, but I have a yes or no question for you.
Absolutely.
Do you believe in higher power?
I do, but I am humble enough to say that I respect interpretations of it, but I don't think that I have the ability to truly infer what it is. The way that I look at it, and I realize you said yes or no, and if you don't want to go far into this, that's fine. But the way that I always tell others is, I think it's not how you interpret it that's important; it's what you do with that. I am somebody who believes that I believe that the world is altruistic at its core, and that bad pandas are not the norm; they are the outlier. And so, whatever that interpreted is, be it is Christianity or otherwise, which I feel like I lean on pretty heavily. It's not about how you define what you believe in, it's what you do with it that defines you. So if you use your platform to talk about your faith, but you do it with the intention of inspiring others, I think that's fantastic. If you do it with malice intent, that's not okay. So
Okay, makes sense.
that makes sense, that I do believe it, but I believe it's not what you believe in, it's what you do with that.
Your cat is gorgeous, by the way.
Yeah, this is Bruce.
Bruce?
I was waiting for him to come in. We call him Bruce because he's got a Batman cowl.
Oh, he's such a gorgeous cat. I'm a cat person, so.
We got 3 of them, so you'll probably see the other 2 at some point potentially in here. But Bruce likes to come in. He thinks the stream is about him.
Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, let's do this. Next one is luck.
Luck. Honestly, I'm gonna be completely transparent. I'd have to put this at a 5, and the reason for that is, no matter what I've been through, no matter how I look at it, every morning that I wake up and I get ready for my bamboo breakfast, right? I always immediately feel like I am so humbled for everything that I have, that the people that are in my life, the experiences that I've had, even when it's been the worst experiences, I'm grateful for them. The losses that I've had, I'm grateful for them. I feel like everything that I've had makes me who I am, and if I was anybody else, then I wouldn't be me, and that would make me a really sad panda. So I think I'm the luckiest person in the world because I'm me.
It's a great answer, my friend. And then there's
Love
Bruce.
that Riot Stream.
Yeah, Riot Stream, what's up, man? How you doing, bro? Thank you for the host, by the way. By the way, guys, for people that are listening, Riot Stream, he's a great streamer. He's actually one of the many people that Brofessor Panda was actually talking about earlier that shows a lot of love on the Mixer community, and he's out here showing a lot of love. So I appreciate your host and everything, man. It means a lot to us here in all these communities. It's great. Love you too. We love you too, buddy. We love you too. All right, so the last one I like to end this on in the setting attributes section is gratitude. But the reason why I like to do this last is because I would like for the people in the chat to let us know, why are you grateful for Professor Panda? Wow, Professor Panda is explaining his answer to gratitude.
Gratitude for me, that's something I think this is one that I think I hacked the system for, because or 5 to better answer the question, because you could take the time to send me a message on Discord and say, hey, how's it going? Simple as that. No intent, no, it could even be with an intent behind it to ask something, right? But seeing somebody reach out just to take 2 seconds of their day, regardless of the reason, I immediately feel like a humble panda, because I feel like that person has taken some of their most precious resource to take time to interact with me, and that changes the day's dynamic. That changes everything that's happened. When I'm live with the Panda Nation, anybody that joins the Panda Nation, anybody that spends 5 seconds just checking in, anybody that says whatever, regardless of their reasoning, I'm ecstatic, just because the bare minimum of taking some time to interact with me is such a gift. Because even if it's a negative interaction, the ability that I've had the opportunity to learn and engage somebody I'm grateful for, because it's made me a better panda as a result of that, regardless of how it went. And I think that's why I don't handle the growth we receive very well, because I'm always shocked by it. I'm like, we every time that we get another follow, every time that we get another person that stops by, it's just it's that fresh reboot of, I can't believe somebody did this for the Panda Nation, and it makes me so thankful. So I this is probably my greatest strength and my greatest weakness, I would say, is the level of gratitude that I have.
That's amazing, man. Happy to hear that. So much I mean, like, it's one thing saying it, it's another thing feeling it, and definitely with your words when you explain it, you could definitely feel we could feel what you're saying, and that's actually great.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And it's adorable how you just laugh it off too, because you don't know how to respond to it.
As that is the default for sure.
Oh man. Okay, so we created your character. You have set your attributes. Okay, so real quick before we get into the next part, Darth Vader in the chat says, Professor Panda, you deserve all the great things people send your way and more. You're an awesome man. Hey.
You're too kind, Darth.
Okay, so you created your character, and then you already set your attributes, and now, my friend, you're off to your main quest. So what is your main quest in your life?
Sidebar, I gotta say, I want to stress again, I love this concept. I want to stress how much I enjoy the format of this. So in case somebody hasn't told you, I love this. 10 out of 10.
Thank you.
But to talk about the main quest right off the bat, I would say the long-term goal is to promote panda positivity. The three things, anytime somebody joins the channel, I always say there's three things you need to know. If you ask about who Professor Panda is or what the Panda Nation is, it is to promote panda positivity, to make sure that you know that I had to press the button, sorry. I love you to succeed in everything that you do, and that we create a fun, hype, and safe environment. To tie that into goals, the way that I've been able to infer that is, one, to promote panda positivity to as many pandas that are out there, that there are a lot of individuals that it's not even a notoriety thing, but it's that they could use that message to know that there's at least a person out there that's rooting for them, that they want, that we are here to see you succeed. And times are going to get tough, but having a beacon or a medium somebody can lean on when they need it, that's what I desire long term, to be a bastion that people can go to if they feel like they need that booster shot of panda positivity, as I always say, that we are seen as a medium that does that successfully. Mm-hmm. And if anything, I don't really think of long-term goals in terms of a growth perspective. So the only way I would interpret that is just that the Panda Nation continues to grow and be recognized for the amazing individuals that are a part of it. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily have to have that recognition, but I think they do, because they're the ones that make it what it is. So that would be my long-term goals, I would say.
So you mentioned, I'm noticing a lot that you give to others more than yourself.
Yep.
So I would like to reiterate this main quest real quick.
Okay.
What is the main quest? So it's great that you want to you have great main quests for others, but what is the main quest for you?
Oh man. Well, that's a good question. For myself personally, you can see where my mindset is, because that's always been my perspective, is always outwards, not necessarily inwards. I guess if I had to pick a long-term goal, is my two long-term goals personally is, one, to never not be genuine in this this journey. And what I mean by that is I've started this experience of content creation and streaming, and we've seen an incredible amount of growth. But one fear that I have is that at some point I trip up and I stop being genuine. I stop streaming for me. I stop streaming for my external goal. I stop believing in myself to a point that I stop feeling like I'm doing this for myself. So I think a way that I would interpret that for myself is that a long-term goal is that we continue to grow, and I personally continue to do this as me and only me. That I never give somebody less than who I am wholeheartedly, if that makes sense. And I would say the second long-term goal for myself personally with the Panda Nation and what we're doing, if I could point to anything, it would just be that I never use this. I always create. I'm trying to think of the best way to infer that. Like I said, I'm good with talking about others, but it's myself personally. I get bamboozled. I apologize.
It's okay.
Darth, I appreciate that. But I think if the only other thing I would put to is that I never the other long-term goal is that I guess that I've created an environment that the concept of promoting panda positivity and what we do is not a me thing. And I realize that's still technically external, but I think myself personally is I stress a lot externally about everybody that's in the community is what makes it so great. Mm-hmm. But what I want to see is I want to be able to build a model at some point that this is an engine that runs with or without me. And what I mean by that is I want somebody else that feels like they have the same level of inspiration, that if they want to go out and let people know you've got this, you can move forward, I believe in you, and they feel confident enough in themselves to do that, that's what I would love to see. That I've created an engine of creating other people to be their best selves and teach others to do that as well. That's probably the other long-term goal, is to realize it that way. I hope that skids by the line enough that it's okay.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. You did a good job on that. Panda Nation loves you. Yeah, dude. All right, see, it's because I can relate to you a lot because we're natural givers, and it's hard. Right. It's hard for us sometimes to be selfless, but in a positive way for ourselves. So I'm immediately catching like, okay, this guy's all about giving, but what do you want to do for yourself? And it's a little hard.
Exactly.
It's a little hard.
It's really hard.
All right, my friend. So you completed your main quests. Now here come your little side quests. So what are some side quests in your game of life?
Actually, I love this. I think the easiest short-term goal for me is to continue to I want to make sure that giving to the community remains a poignant part of what we do, because one thing that I love doing more than anything else is giving back. That when I am succeeding, that I am ensuring that others are I don't want to say reaping the benefits, but I am paying it forward to my bamboo best. So a short-term goal that I always, and that will always refresh for me, is that I'm always giving back to the community and to those that need it more than I feel that I do. And that comes with a lot of like charity work, or what have now been translated into like charity streams and things like that. So making sure that an active recurring existence of giving back to the community is the one thing that I think I personally need to continue to succeed. Because if I feel like I'm at a point that I'm not giving back enough, then I will start to feel like I am not doing enough, and then I'll start to doubt what I'm doing. So that is something that's always a very strong part of what I personally want to see, is to make sure that I'm always doing something regardless of what that medium, but it is paying it forward to those that really that need it probably more than I do. That if that makes sense.
Yes.
Again, I realize I'm skirting that line, but I'm trying my bamboo best here. And probably the other thing in this one is something that I stay very confident on is continuous improvements. I never want to feel like I have become either monotonous or I have become repetitive in what I'm doing. Like it's difficult for me when I end a stream to not immediately go, okay, what overlay do I need to add now? Okay, what can I add that everybody would like to see next? Like making sure that we keep continuous improvements and enhancements to make sure that the engine of promoting Panda positivity doesn't just continue, but it stays unique. That is something very important to me, is to never stay complacent. And that ties back to what we talked about earlier with the character background of learning and then teaching to help others grow. If I don't grow myself, how can I expect to be able to grow others as we continue to move forward in this bamboozling experience we call life, right?
Bamboozling experience, indeed.
Yep. So
Has that no any other side quests?
Those are probably the two immediate. The other one's easy, and this is it's technically not my side quest, but it is one that I think is pertinent for this. Vex and I need to get married. That's at some point we're gonna get married. That's something that we need to do. That is a very important side quest of ours. So because it's not an if, it's a win for us. Yeah, exactly.
At some point,
because we just it's a thing that, and this is gonna sound a little bit Bruce, come on now. Sorry. That with us, we've been together enough, and we are so, I guess just passionate about each other that us getting married is more of a stepping stone than it is a commitment for us. As
okay.
Odd as that sounds. So
no,
it's us. Yeah, it's something that we've had on our to-do list. We've not done it yet. So
how long have y'all been together now?
So August will be 14 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing. By the way, quick question. If Bruce had a superpower, what would it be?
Ooh. Justice, because he's Batman.
That's a good one. I love it.
Yeah. 100%. Being as spazzy as possible.
Being as spazzy as possible. That's awesome. What's up, Hit? How you doing, man? All right, well, you completed your main quest. You even completed those side quests. Now, my friend, you have reached your final boss in your game of life. So what is your final boss you wish to conquer?
It's more of a concept, but it's the only way that I can interpret this, and that's defeating self-doubt.
Okay.
And it's when I say self-doubt, I've learned in my very limited experience, and for the individuals that I've talked to, a concept that I've become a very big fan of is the concept of being a wounded healer, an individual that has had an experience and they have reached out to others that basically they can come from an area of experience as well. So they are a healer that was wounded by what they are trying to heal. It's such a unique concept to me. I found early on, and from that I found out what it was very early on before I had my paradigm shift. Because when I call it that, what did I shift from? What was the thing that I changed? What was that skin that was holding me back from being able to promote Panda positivity like I do now? And what I realize is it's self-doubt. It is the perception that you are not good enough to do what you want to do. It is the self-inflicted barriers that we put on ourselves, be it from how we're raised, our experiences, or regardless of where it comes from. But it's that fear of failure that exists in a lot of us, especially in current culture today. And one thing that I strive to do when I say promote Panda positivity is that is a mechanism I hope to eventually defeat this final boss, which is when you wake up in the morning and you try to figure out what you're going to do for that day, that those inhibitors that you have that are like, well, you're not good enough to do X, so you might as well not try it. Or, well, you failed at this before, so you better not try it again. Or those things that stop you from feeling like you are your best self. Who you are today is already you succeeding for just being you. And I hope one day to be able to, if not myself, at least to create a medium that helps people overcome that and take out that boss.
That's a great final boss to conquer.
The self-doubt shark, that's what we call it sometimes. Yes, got to beat the self-doubt shark.
So if a final boss was something, an entity, it would definitely be a shark.
100%.
I wonder what that shark would look like.
Don't get me wrong, I love sharks, but it is definitely a bad panda shark.
Of course. All right, my friend, you defeated your final boss, and it hits game over. What is the legacy or impact you wish to leave when somebody opens your save file?
So when that save file is opened up, there's two things I hope they see. One is I want them to see that regardless of where you are today, that who you are today is your best self, and you can go. That means you have the ability to do anything that you put your mind, your heart, and your bamboo to. I want people to see the story in my experiences and know that you do not have to be a certain way to do a certain thing. That who you are and how you are made is how you are supposed to be made, and your experiences are going to define that. And that defining in what you decide to do should always be what you want, and you should never stop yourself from that. And the second thing is, I hope they see the Panda Nation. I hope what they see is a group of individuals, or even just, again, a nation in itself, that is letting them know that they're proud of them for making it to where they are. They got to the point that they opened that save file, and that is the first success of the day. If you are here right now, you've already succeeded. All you're doing is just building on top of that existing success. And I hope people think of that as they don't start the day as failing, they start the day as winning. And even if you fall, that doesn't mean you've lost, because remember, you're already winning. You're just building on top of that success. So failure is not a loss. It is just a bump in the road on your continued success. And I hope that they continue to move forward, even one panda pod at a time, as they see what was in the save file.
That's a beautiful save file, my friend.
I appreciate you, my friend.
Of course. I appreciate you coming through again, man. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, your save file. It is almost what I expected, is that you definitely had one hell of a journey, because you being who you are, it's not easy to get to where you're at.
I'm a humble panda to be here. I will continue to say I don't deserve the success that we've had, which is why my luck score is so high. But I'm very grateful that I have met the panda certified individuals like yourself. I'm very humbled to have the community that we have, and I'm very, very grateful for Mixer for giving us a platform to continue to grow it.
Yes, sir. Gunslinger says, I love how this podcast is structured. The Future Wife says, this is an amazing concept. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Agreed.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I try to make it as dorky as possible for all of us gamer nerds out here, where everybody can understand. So I love it. It's amazing. So real quick, plug in your socials. Where can people find you?
Oh, sorry. Nice to meet you. I was like, what? Oh. I was like, well, you can find the podcast at. So you can find me first and foremost on Mixer here, Brofessor _Panda. I'm on YouTube as well. where we've started doing some stuff on there. I'm very active on Twitter. That's probably my main go-to. Same handle, Twitter dot what Professor _ Panda. See, done goof. There we go.
It's
and then probably the newest medium that we've started exploring is TikTok. I'm also on there as well, so you can. It's a bit of a different avenue, but I'm having a Mixer kind of forced my hand on it a little bit, and I'm having a bamboo-filled time with it. So
amazing.
So yeah.
Did you mention your Discord?
Yes, we have a Discord, right? We have Discord as well. So I'd probably say that if I am not streaming, I am actively on Discord, communicating with the Panda Nation as well, and use that as an avenue to reach out for folks that maybe not want to publicly say that they need a bit of inspiration. It gives me a good avenue to be able to do so. So love Discord for that.
Amazing. Again, sir, thank you so much. I'm truly humbled that you decided to come on here and share your story, man. It's definitely a blessing.
I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for giving me the avenue to do so.
Of course, y'all. Again, I mean, we're the hosts and guests here, but y'all definitely made it great in the chat. So give y'all some credit. It couldn't be as great as it was if it wasn't for y'all being involved in the chat, and it was amazing, y'all. Love y'all so much. The Panda Nation is definitely one to remember. You guys are an amazing community, and it really shows. But to close it out, my friend, for the people that don't know, who are you and whose save file is this?
My name is Brofessor Panda, and this is my save file.
Hey, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go. Give it up for the one and only Professor Panda. Let's go. Oh man, thank you guys. We had so much fun here. Thank you very much, both of your legends. Listen, we can't be legends without other great people following us. That's what makes a great legend, and you are a part of our legacy, so remember that too. Give yourself credit.
And Darth Vader, you are the bamboo best, buddy. Sorry, had to get that in.
No, of course, do what you gotta do. But guys, again, thank you so much. Truly humble that you guys came over here and hung out. If you guys haven't yet, please go ahead and check out the socials. If you guys haven't followed yet, please consider following. I do this every week. I just booked up full of July. We're booked all the way till July, and it's absolutely amazing. It's great to see where it's coming.
So excited.
Thank you so much. Again, guys, thanks you for hanging out. It was fun. Stay happy, stay healthy, and most of all, gamers, stay golden. Until next time, y'all. Yeah.